Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this NFL DFS Conference Championship podcast. My name is Adam Kohn. I am your host. Welcome to Main Event DFS. Been a while since I did a podcast. Been doing some live streams. But thank you here for joining me again to this podcast that still needs a name. Again, my name is Adam Kohn. I am your host. I'm an NFL DFS analyst and content provider here at Main Event DFS. Without any further ado, I am going to get right into this, ladies and gentlemen, for you all. We are again here on FanDuel. And let's get right into this slate. Let's start off with the NFL Vegas odds. This is going to be a much quicker podcast than normal. There's only it's a two-game slate, 4 teams. Only so much we can talk about and go through. So I'm going to go game by game, position by position. We're going to start off with Cincinnati at Kansas City. The over/under is set at 54.5, with Kansas City favored by 7. And then we have the San Francisco 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams, with the Rams favored by 3.5, with a 45.5 over/under. We know what game we're targeting here, ladies and gentlemen, just based on these over/unders. We're targeting that Cincinnati and Kansas City game. That is the first game here on this slate. Let's get into it. Cincinnati at Kansas City. Again, the over/under is at 54.5. Let's get right into it. Quarterbacks are Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. Patrick Mahomes, $8,800. Joe Burrow, $7,500. Patrick Mahomes is probably the best quarterback player of the entire slate. Why? Because he's Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City is going to have a ton of offense. Of all the defenses on this slate, Cincinnati is the weakest. Okay? Cincinnati is the weakest on this slate. So I think the odds on... I'll say it here. I had Bills-Rams too, but with the Rams winning. What a thriller that Kansas City-Bills game was last week. I think Kansas City wins this game. I'll be rooting for Cincinnati to win. I think Kansas City wins. I think the Rams win. That's nice for NFL, but for DFS purposes, I want to attack this game as much as possible. We know probably a lot of the offense and the high scoring is going to come from this game. Clearly, again, with a 54.5 over/under, we have to take into account the worst defense. And let's face it, the Niners defense is really good, and the Rams defense is excellent. These two defenses are the weakest. They're playing each other. A lot of offensive production. Patrick Mahomes is overpriced at $8,800. What I mean by that, if I just switch on the all tab here real quick, Mahomes is $88, $1,300 less is Burrow and Stafford, and then Jimmy Garoppolo is $6,200. Trey Lance is $6,100. With that being said, we switch back to this game. I think Joe Burrow is a great player. Don't get me wrong. If you're mathematically entering this slate, you play tons of Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be the safest, probably the highest scoring quarterback. But again, point per dollar wise, to save me $1,300 and I can get to a Joe Burrow or a Matthew Stafford, I love that. Mahomes is firmly in play. Not really something to talk about there. He's playing against the worst defense of any of the 4 on the slate. The game's going to be high scoring. It's going to be explosive. Play Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow is someone that I think has, well, not as high of a floor as Patrick Mahomes. I think he's got a just as high ceiling as Patrick Mahomes. And we can save $1,300 and play Joe Burrow. Love Joe Burrow on this slate. The running backs in this game, Joe Mixon's at $8,200, Jake McKinnon $6,200, Clyde $5,700. Look, last week we saw, I'll just say, play Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon against Kansas City, play Joe Mixon. He's been heavily involved. There's nothing else you need me to talk about here. He's been outstanding. He's been stellar. Even against Tennessee, he put up a touchdown, 14 rushing attempts, 54 yards, and a rushing touchdown, 7 targets, 6 receptions for 51 yards against the number 1 or number 2 best rushing defense in the NFL, the Tennessee Titans. Joe Mixon went off last week. Going to probably do the same here against the Chiefs. I don't mind playing Mixon. I like the Kansas City running backs. If we take a look at just what happened last week with the game log, Jerick McKinnon had 10 rushing attempts for 24 yards and a fumble, but he also had 7 targets for 5 receptions for 54 yards. Clyde, on the other hand, 7 rushing attempts for 60 yards, 2 targets for 1 receptions and 9 yards. It looks like McKinnon's the guy going forward and slightly edging out Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, Darrell Williams is questionable with a toe injury. Go ahead and hit a RotoWire. Williams' toe is trending towards a game time to save us on his AFC Championship game against the Bengals. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN.com reports. Okay. Just know with that being said, I think it's the McKinnon show. I'd play McKinnon, but if you're 20 entry maxing, don't forget to leave Clyde out there. I had a mix of Jerk McKinnon last week and Clyde. So I would just set a rule to only play one of these two running backs in the same lineup. On a 2-game slate, if you're playing 2 Kansas City running backs, you're trying to capture the upside of one. You don't want negative correlation. Neither of them do anything. You're burning 2 roster spots other than one. If they both go off, the likelihood of both of them going off is pretty much not that high. Joe Mixon's a great play. I play McKinnon first, Clyde second. I have no interest in any other running back. If you want to take a shot on a Chris Evans, you can try. You want to take a shot on a Samaje Perine, you can do that. I have no interest in either of them. I have no interest in Garrett Gore. If Darrell Williams plays, 5 to maybe 15%, probably more like 5 to 10% Darrell Williams. McKinnon's been more involved. Kind of somewhat. They just go with the hot hand right now, and that's Jerick McKinnon. Clyde, they're not pushing too hard as well. Again, he's come off the injury a couple weeks ago. It's the McKinnon and Clyde show right now. Darrell Williams probably relegated back to the third down role, but it depends if they activate him or not for this game. I don't think they need him. So, with how good McKinnon's been. The wide receivers, we'll start with the Cincinnati wide receivers. Jamar Chase, 8,000. T. Higgins, 6,400. Tyler Boyd, $5,800. All 3 are in play. Again, as I tell you every week, you have to mix and match these Cincinnati wide receivers. I like Chase 1, Boyd 2, Higgins 3, same as last week. I don't think Higgins has a high floor, but I think Higgins has a high ceiling. I think Boyd has a high floor. I don't think he has a high ceiling. So, again, you're playing risk-reward here. I just like Chase 1, Boyd 2, Higgins 3. No knock to Higgins. Again, if you max out the entering, you're playing all 3. Tyree, and now on the Kansas City side of things, you're playing Tyreek Hill. I know it's a no-brainer. And then you get down to the bottom 3 wide receivers, Byron Pringle, Mikko Hartman, and Demarcus Robinson. I'm not saying bottom 3 wide receivers. They're the bottom 3 of my screen. The other wide receiver is not named Tyreek Hill. Pringle's my favorite, followed up by... Hartman was used a lot last week. I was very impressed. So... And you're going to have to forgive me. I've got the WWE Royal Rumble on in the background. That's the reason I'm recording this a little bit late on a Saturday night. First WWE show I watched in a long time. I've been more watching All Elite Wrestling. But, it's the Rumble. Anything could happen. Anyway, back to the football, not the wrestling. Pringle, we've definitely seen more involved on a week-to-week basis. We're going to be playing Byron Pringle. Okay? 7 targets, 8 targets, 4 targets, 7 targets. Pringle's been more involved. Pringle's the number 2 wide receiver. Now, we take a look at what Mikko Hartman did last week. 1 target, 1 reception for 26 yards. Feels like it was way more than that. I believe he also had a couple of rushes in there for that 12.2 fantasy points. We take a look at what Demarcus Robinson did. Not involved. Josh Gordon's been released. He's been cut. So I would say for me, with the way he was used last week, I would say you go with Mikko Hartman. And then Demarcus Robinson. But I can also see this being a Demarcus Robinson week. So I would just say mix and match your Mikko Hartman, Demarcus Robinson. I prefer Mikko to Robinson. But again, 20 entry maxes, you're playing all 4 of these wide receivers. Again, 2-game slate. We have to mix and match our combinations to try capitalizing on that winning lineup. The tight ends here are Travis Kelce and CJ Uzomah. Both are firmly in play. Obviously, I prefer Travis Kelce. He's $7,700. He's sub 8,000. We know Cincinnati has been freaking terrible this year against tight ends. Uzomah on the other side of things, $5,600 here on FanDuel. $5,600 here on FanDuel. Excuse me. Uzomah's in play. Kelce is probably a core play for me on this slate based on matchup. So I'm putting Kelce in my core. I'll pay up for Kelce if I have to. Maybe I'll go from Tyreek Hill to Byron Pringle in my Mahomes stacks. Or maybe I'll try fitting up all 3 and pay down somewhere else. Again, it's the Cincinnati defense. They're not good versus the tight ends. They're arguably the worst in the entire league against the tight end position. It kind of speaks for itself. Again, Uzama gets some exposure in there. Probably a good run back. We've seen Uzama used heavily the last several weeks. Since the Baltimore game, 7 targets, 6 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets. Uzama has been involved in the Cincinnati offense. Moving on to the last game here on the slate, it's the San Francisco 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams. The over-under in this game is at, let me just refresh the page. Over-under in this game is at 45.5. Again, with the Rams favored by 3.5. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we take a look here at the quarterbacks on the slate. Matthew Stafford, $700. You're playing Stafford. What we think is interesting is, do you play Jimmy Garoppolo against the Los Angeles Rams defense? In 20 maxes, you want to go 5 to 15%. I'm fine with that. If you want to take a random shot at like 1 to 5% on a Trey Lance, fine. I wouldn't advise that. Unless you're playing on some site where you can flex, Lance as a super flex. And even then, it's very risky. Garoppolo, my least favorite of the 4 quarterbacks. He's not doing much throwing. Again, he's more of a game manager. I don't see the ceiling with Garoppolo. I mean, in the playoffs, he has 5.98 fantasy points and 4.24 fantasy points. Nothing makes me want to play him. Over the entire season, 1 game at Chicago, 27.28 fantasy points. That was his highest. So, again, where's the ceiling with him? Where's the ceiling with Garoppolo? I don't see it. If you're playing it and you want to take chances with Garoppolo, I'm fine with that. I got all 4 quarterbacks in play. Garoppolo, my least favorite of the 4. By far. Stafford, firmly in play. Not that much to say about Stafford. He's a great quarterback play. Great play in the slate. The running backs in this game, Elijah Mitchell and Cam Akers and Sony Michel. Darrell Henderson still out on IR with that MCL injury, and Jeff Wilson is questionable with an ankle injury. I think Elijah Mitchell is very sneaky on the slate. I think Cam Akers is a great play on this. Is a great play on the slate, especially at 6,200. Sony Michel has been phased out of this offense with Cam Akers coming back in. Last week at Tampa Bay, 1 rushing attempt for 4 yards. 2 targets, 2 receptions for -4 receiving yards. Now, again, you take into account, back it up again, Arizona, 13 rushing attempts, 58 yards. That was Cam Akers' coming back game. This is the Cam Akers show, baby, and he's not high enough, so we're playing lots of Cam Akers on this slate. He will get more heavily utilized and involved. 24 rushing attempts last week for 48 rushing yards. He had the 2 fumbles, 3 targets, 3 receptions, 20 yards. Cam Akers, I love Cam Akers on the. I love Cam Akers on the slate. Why? Look at the volume the last 2 weeks. 17 rushing attempts versus the Cardinals. 24 rushing attempts at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's rushing defense is really freaking good. Okay? Now, the Niners' rushing defense is good too. But Cam Akers, $6,200, we're playing Cam Akers. Elijah Mitchell, I think, is a sneaky play on the slate. We know Elijah Mitchell gets the volume. And all he needs is 1 or 2 touchdowns and he pays off. So, with that being said, the wide receivers on this slate. The wide receiver MVP should be the clear wide receiver MVP this year. Cooper Kupp, $9,700, the most expensive play on the entire slate. Cooper Kupp is in play. Now, with that being said, Odell Beckham has been more utilized in the Rams offense. I think Odell Beckham is in play. I think this is a Cooper Kupp kind of game. But Deebo Samuel is also someone that needs consideration on the slate. So the San Francisco wide receivers, there were 2. Actually, there were 3. I'll talk about them all. Deebo Samuel, you play him. You lock and load it, you play him. Great play. Going to be force-fed the ball. Going to be used in many different ways. And then you got Brandon Ayuk, $5,600 against the Rams. Probably may not be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey in this game. Had 13.7 fantasy points against the Rams on the last time they faced each other. So, with that being said, I think Ayuk is definitely in play at $5,600. Now, the other wide receiver we have to talk about here is Juwan Jennings. He's someone I played last week. He didn't pan out, but we looked before the previous 2 weeks, 5 targets and 7 targets. Okay, Juwan Jennings, I think, is someone you have to have in your player pool. He's someone that you definitely want exposure to, and I think you also put in there Trent Sherfield. Okay, so you put Trent Sherfield in there. As wasn't utilized last week. It's Debo, it's Ayuk, and Juwan Jennings for me. Cooper Kupp, I think, is the play of the Rams you want to play. Beckham is someone else you want to play. Van Jefferson, this is interesting and is going to change the slate. Jefferson is questionable with the knee injury. He's trending towards playing, and trending towards being active, according to Jordan Rodriguez of the Athletic. I apologize if I didn't pronounce that name correctly. If Van Jefferson is limited, we hear that in advance, or doesn't play at all, Ben Skrowanek, I think, is someone you can play at low volume, but, if Van Jefferson is a full go, we can't play Skrowanek. And at Van Jefferson at $5,200, are people going to be scared off by that questionable tag? Let's take advantage of that against the Niners secondary. And I think Van Jefferson has a slate-breaking ceiling on this slate. Slate-breaking ceiling. So keep that in mind. Cooper Kupp is your first. I'd actually go Van Jefferson second for the ceiling and Beckham third. All 3 wide receivers for the Rams are in play. All are great plays on this slate. Tight ends. George Kittle, Tyler Higby. I don't have to tell you anything. Both are firmly in play. We saw Kittle heavily involved. We see Kittle firmly involved. We see Higby firmly involved. Both tight ends are in play. Let's talk about the defenses. If you want to talk about the tight ends, Kittle, what's there to say? He's a beast. Hasn't seen the ceiling in several weeks. Has a ceiling in this game for sure. He's a monster. He's a beast. He gets the targets. He gets the volume. Tyler Higby, last week we saw majorly involved. 7 targets, 4 receptions, 51 receiving yards. Higby's in play. Yes, Blanton got the touchdown. 2 targets, 2 receptions, 18 yards, and he had the touchdown. Great, fine. I'm still playing Higby. I'm not playing Blanton. If you want to play like 5% Blanton, that's fine. And I have no interest in any of the tight ends on this slate. We need to talk about the defenses here on the slate. Mix and match them, everyone. I would stay away from Kansas City and the Bengals. I'd try finding the money to get to the Rams or the Niners. If you're playing one of the other 2 defenses, I'd probably just go Kansas City at $3,700 against the bad Cincinnati Bengals offensive line. So if you want if you want a defense, I'd say the Chiefs, the Rams, the Niners, and the Bengals in that order. Game script wise, I want to talk to game script with everyone here real quick, because I got a question about this earlier in Discord, and I was asking this person. I said, "What do you think the game script is?" And they told me. Here's how I think the game script's going to go. I think Kansas City is going to score early. They're going to score often, and they're going to control the volume of the game. I think Cincinnati is going to have to throw to come back in this game. I think that makes Mixon in play because they got the throw to the running back. And utilize Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. I think this is going to be a script where Burrow could pay off more than Mahomes. If the running backs from Kansas City get the touchdowns and Mahomes doesn't, which makes Burrow viable, and at $8,800, you're going to need Patrick Mahomes to pay off that price tag. Which, of course, you can. I just really like Joe Burrow a lot here, and a good upcoming game script to most likely they're going to be playing from behind, if that makes sense. If you think Cincinnati has enough of an up-tempo to beat the Chiefs, they're still going to have to throw the ball, in my opinion. Mixon may be a little less effective because they'll probably try to control the clock, especially knowing how bad their offensive line is and how not elite their defense is. So keep that in mind. In terms of the so again, I think Kansas City wins. I'm rooting for Cincinnati. I think Kansas City wins. I think the Rams win, and I'm rooting for the Rams. I think Cincinnati's going to have the great game script either way. And I think Kansas City, again, is in a fantastic spot. So keep that in mind. The Rams, so the 49ers and the Rams. Lowest scoring game on the slate. I know, shocker. Both great defenses. The Rams have the better offense. The Niners, I think, are going to struggle here. I think they could struggle to put up 17 points. I really do. I think it's going to be, I think Elijah Mitchell could get 1 or 2 touchdowns. He has the ceiling. But I think the Niners are going to probably try doing the same thing Cincinnati is going to do. Control the clock. Keep the Rams offense off the field. And try to manage that Rams defense with their defense. And what I mean by that is very simple. I think that the Niners know they're probably not the most elite team in the NFL, but they believe in their staff. They're going to ask a lot of their defense. They really are. I think they're going to ask a lot of their defense to manage to try to get Stafford to turn the ball over. We've seen Stafford have his issues this year with turning the ball over, especially towards the end of the year. Stafford's looked great in the playoffs. I think the Niners are going to try forcing Stafford to turn the ball over, and they're going to have to capitalize that on offense. Like I said, I think the Niners struggle to put up 17 points in this game. And I'll put them at 17 points. I think Elijah Mitchell gets 1 or 2, and I think Debo gets 1 or 2. Ayuk might get 1 or 2. I don't know where else their volume is going to come from. They can have a random Trey Lance goal line stand package. I have no idea. I think the Rams are going to go control the game. Cam Akers is going to feast. Well, not feast. He's going to have a great game. Good to great game. I think Kupp feasts in this game. I think Van Jefferson breaks off a long touchdown. Maybe 2. I think Beckham is going to end up with like 5 to 7 targets for like 4 to 6 receptions and maybe 50 to 70 yards. You have to, when you're making your lineups, folks, you have to try keeping in mind. Okay? You have to try keeping in mind, what do you think the game scripts are going to be? We know we're going to get a lot of offense out of Cincinnati and Kansas City. If you think the Niners and the Rams are going to go bonkers, play like that. Play those plays that you're confident in. But try to figure out your game scripts. Try building a lineup accordingly. We need to take shots on this slate. Your Pringles, your Robinsons, your Hardmans, your Juwan Jennings, your Sherfields, your Zomas. We need to take shots at this slate with the value guys that you guys are going to think, you guys and gals are going to think are going to break off and break the slate. Or if they don't break the slate, they're going to help you win a GPP. So again, keep that in mind. Core play for me. Let's go. Let's get into our final segment here. I will have Super Bowl content. I will have Super Bowl content, either a podcast or a live stream. Check out the Main Event DFS Discord. Link is in below. Hit the see more. Hit the see more below in the description. You get the Discord link, free Discord. I will have, I will have an update sometime next week after the Pro Bowl when my NFL DFS content is going to drop. We need to get to when they're practicing. We need to see who's in the Super Bowl. We need to get past the Pro Bowl, and we need to see who's there, who's injured, who's not. What are we hearing out of Media Day? It most likely isn't going to be until after Media Day that you're going to see Super Bowl content from me. Now, before I continue and get into my core value with GPP and favorite stack segment, drop a like on this video. Hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. That way, there every single one of you know every time we drop content here at Main Event DFS. And leave a comment below. As I tell you every week, tell me who you're on, who you're not on, what plays you like, what plays you don't like. Tell me game strategy. Tell me what you think the game scripts are going to be. Let's get into the final segment here. And I thank all of you for the content this year. Again, drop a comment below. I want to hear from all of you. Tell me who you're on, who you're not on. What plays you like, what plays you don't like. What do you all think the game scripts are going to be? Again, I think the game script is going to be great. I think it's going to be Cincinnati, Kansas City. I think it's going to be a lot of the Rams. That's why I think the game script, on a game script, that's how I'm going to play it. I think Cincinnati, Kansas City is going to be a great offensive game. I think Cincinnati's coming from behind. But tell me what you guys think the game script's going to be. Tell me what plays you're on and you're not on. Let's get into it. Core value, GPP favorite team stack segment. Sorry, that's my Counter-Strike podcast. Core value, GPP, and favorite stack segment. So let's get into it. Core play for me on this slate is going to be Travis Kelce. Close to a core play, Cooper Kupp. So I'll put it on my GPP segment. Your value plays are Byron Pringle, Mikko Hartman, Demarcus Robinson, the entire other three wide receivers that are not named Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs. I think I'm going right back to the well on Juwan Jennings. GPP play, Cam Akers, Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce, Deebo Samuel. Favorite stack? I want to say, I'm going to give you two. Mahomes, Pringle, Kelce, run back with Chase. The other one I'm going to go with is I'm going to go with Burrow, Chase, Boyd, run back with Kelce or Hill. Again, drop a like on this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment down below, tell me who you guys are on, you're not on, all that fun stuff. Game scripts, what you guys think the game script's going to be, who you're on, who you're not on, what the game script's going to be. Follow me on Twitter at AdamWX21. Leave a comment down below, comment on Twitter, send me a DM, chat with me on Twitter. Follow Main Event DFS at Main Event DFS, MANE on Twitter. Thank you for watching. Good luck on this slate. Latest, peoples.